The new Championship season really is on the horizon now because the fixtures are now released in the Championship, League 1 and in League 2 as well. But today we're going to look at the Championship fixtures in quite some detail. We're going to look at all 24 teams' first 6 and last 6 games to see what sort of start they may have and what's going to be their running for what they may be aiming for in the Championship season. We'll also look at some very important match days as well, because this season is quite peculiar compared to other seasons. The COVID season was pretty peculiar, but this is just as peculiar in terms of its start times as well. If you guys like what you see, please give the video a like, it does tremendously help. And please do let me know in the comments down below if you are excited for the new season. Please hit the like and subscribe button, as I will be doing Championship content throughout the season. And please share this channel to as many people as you can, all of that helps too. But without any further ado, let's start reviewing the fixtures. We'll look at one club at a time. We're going to start off with Birmingham. Their first 6 fixtures consist of Luton away, where they actually had a great record against Luton last season, beat them twice and actually beat them by 5-0 away from home last year. They play Huddersfield at home, then Cardiff away, Watford at home, Wigan at home, and then Rotherham away. So a bit of a mixed bag. I've got to say, even with the tough game that I can see, which is definitely Watford, but they've got home games with that. So I dare say, I think their home games is what the toughest games are. I think their away games, Luton, Cardiff and Rotherham, I think are rather generous for Birmingham. This season's going to feel like a season where I feel like a lot of them are going to be backing Birmingham to potentially be one of the favourites to go down. But they definitely should have a decent start if they take advantage of those fixtures there. Their running, though, is quite interesting. So they got Stoke at home, Sunderland away, Millwall away, Blackpool at home, Coventry away and Sheffield United at home. Once again, not really anything too noteworthy. In fact, they don't have to face any of the relegated teams from the Premier League in their final 6. Sheffield United, as their final game, is a very tough game for them to end on. They're going to want to be pretty safe at that time. If Blackpool are down there, that home game against them with the third game before the end of the season, that might be very crucial. Sunderland might be a crucial game as well, away from home. In general, I think Birmingham's fixtures in the opening 6 and the running, not too bad, I've got to say, all things considered there. Birmingham fans, let me know what you think about those fixtures. We now go to Blackburn Rovers. Now, their first 6 fixtures are quite interesting. We've got QPR at home. They've also got Swansea away, West Brom at home, Reading away, Sheffield United away and Stoke at home. The one tricky game I definitely see from that is Sheffield United away. I think that's going to be very tricky. West Brom, I think, will be up there this year, so that home game is going to be interesting. Yondale Thomason is going to face another team with a new manager, Michael Beale in QPR, so that's going to be a very interesting game for both of those new managers to have their first games in charge. And in general, I think their home games aren't too bad, maybe minus West Brom, and even their away games, Swansea could be up there, but I don't think too bad. Reading away is not so bad as well, and I think Sheffield United is the one tough one that they've got there. And Blackburn's final 6 games is quite interesting. You've got Huddersfield away, Hull at home, Coventry at home, Preston away, so you've got a bit of a Lancashire derby going on there, Luton at home, and then Millwall away. I don't think they're that bad. I think Huddersfield away might be the trickiest game, and it feels weird actually saying Huddersfield will be a tough game, but thinking about what Huddersfield have done last season, if they're up there again, they should pose a really good challenge for a lot of this team. Hull at home could be okay. Coventry, a bit of a tricky game. I think that'll be quite close. Preston, I mean, they had a great result against Preston at Deepdale last time, so we'll see if they can repeat that. Luton, okay, maybe. And then Millwall away, a bit tricky. But overall, I don't think they've got a really bad run in at all. So in terms of Blackpool, now Blackpool may be also predicted to be quite down there this year. A lot of people not too sure about Michael Appleton as their manager. But I've got to say, looking at their opening 6 games, it doesn't look awful. So they've got Reading to start things off at home, which is very nice, I think. Stoke away, yeah, it could be a little bit tricky, but overall I don't think too bad. Swansea at home, QPR away, Burnley away, and Bristol City at home. I think their home games are actually quite good. I think Burnley away is the one game that I think will be quite tough for them. QPR away may be okay. Stoke away, I think they'll still be pretty 50-50 for. But I feel like apart from Burnley, I don't think Blackpool have got a terrible opening run of games at all, I've got to be honest. So I don't think it's all that bad for Blackpool there. When you look at the running though, if they're definitely down there in the table, these are sort of the games they're going to be relying on. So they're relying on Luton away, Wigan at home, West Brom at home, Birmingham away, Millwall home and Norwich away. So a really, really tough final game of the season for Blackpool. They definitely would want to try and survive the season before they have to play them. And I already mentioned about Birmingham being at home to Blackpool. That game there could be a very crucial game in their seasons. And I got to say, it looks a bit tricky. Wigan at home could be quite crucial there, but I don't see too many winnable games. And one thing I'll say about the Championship this year, I feel like no team is easy to play up against, really. I feel like the standard has really gone up and it's very difficult to put a team as an outright favourite these days. Now with Bristol City, this is quite interesting. They've got Hull away, Sunderland at home, Wigan away, Luton at home, Cardiff at home and Blackpool away. So we've got two of the newly promoted teams in the opening 3 matches. They start off with Hull City away. I think that'll be a pretty close game between the two. Luton at home's not that bad, Cardiff at home, and then Blackpool away. I've got to say, that is a very, very nice opening 6 games. None of the recently relegated teams they have to play up against right now. In terms of teams who were in the top 6 last year, it was only Luton Town. So I've got to say, position-wise, I actually think that's one of the best opening 6 games I've seen so far. Having said that, their run into the end of the season, not so nice. So they've got Middlesbrough at home, then followed by Watford away, and followed by Sheffield United away. Wow, that's really, really tricky. Then it's Rotherham at home, which I actually think is quite nice. Then Burnley at home, and then QPR away to end this off. 4 of those 6 games I think are very tricky. And I've got to say, 2 of them are home, but the 2 away games between Watford and Sheffield United back-to-back, I think that's very, very tricky for Bristol City. And it's hard to say what Bristol City will be aiming for this year. You know, if they're going to be aiming for top 6, that running could potentially cost them if they run out of momentum a little bit quickly, you know, because Middlesbrough, Watford I expect to be up there, Sheffield United will be up there for sure, Burnley I think could be up there as well, so that could be a very pivotal couple of games for Bristol City depending what they're aiming for. Speaking of Burnley, this is their opening 6 games, their first appearance in the Championship for over 6 years, and they start off with the actual first game of the season on Friday the 29th of July, Huddersfield Town away from home. That is very, very exciting to me. Then they got Luton at home, then Watford away, Hull at home, Blackpool home, and Wigan away. So they've only got one of the recently promoted teams from League One in Wigan in the opening 6 games. Watford away is quite tricky, and Huddersfield away. I've got to say, I think their away games are actually going to be quite tricky because I think Wigan will have a pretty decent home form. They'll be using their home for Wigan to try and survive in the Championship as well. I think their home games, though, are quite good. I think Luton may be the trickiest one they've got at home. Hull and Blackpool, I expect them to get results, I feel. So, overall, a bit of a mixed bag. In terms of their running, especially if they want to get into the top 6 or even promotion, this is the games they're going to be relying upon. Sheffield United at home could always be a very, very crucial game, and that might be a very crucial game in that moment there. Reading away, followed by Rotherham away, QPR at home, Bristol City away, and Cardiff at home. I've got to say, take away Sheffield United, I think those final 5 games are actually pretty good for Burnley, I've got to be honest. So, if they're in a position where they're chasing for, you know, maybe going into the top 6 or whatever, I mean, obviously those things in paper, you cannot underestimate them, and I'm sure Burnley will learn about that, and Vincent Company will make sure that Burnley will fight for every single game. But I've got to say, I think the running does favour Burnley a little bit, especially if they're chasing for a higher part of the Championship table. So that makes things very interesting for sure. Cardiff City next, and they I think have got the toughest opening day fixture where they've got to face Norwich City at home. I don't think many teams like playing against Norwich. It's quite far away from the majority of the Championship teams, you know, being Northern of course. And Norwich just seem to be a team that always seem to get out of the Championship. They'll be a very tough team, although Norwich typically don't really start the season that well. So maybe Cardiff could have a small chance there. Reading away as well, with Birmingham at home, West Brom away, Bristol City away, and Preston at home. I think the 2 tough games for me are Norwich at home and West Brom away. Those 2 games will be very tough. Birmingham at home I think are okay, and then with Reading away as well, I think those 2 games are okay to be sandwiched between those 2 really tough games there. Bristol City away, obviously 7-side derby, so that'll make things very interesting there. And then Preston as well. You know, they've got a decent record against Preston, so I think in general a bit of a mixed bag. They're running. So they've got Sunderland at home, Sheffield United away, Watford away, Stoke at home, Huddersfield at home, and Burnley away. Wow, that is a very tough run if I've ever seen one. Sunderland at home could be the one alright game. I feel Sunderland will be better at home, but when Sunderland are away to teams, I think teams may have a bit of an advantage there. Sheffield United and then Watford away followed again. That is very, very cruel for anyone to have that. Then Stoke at home, Huddersfield at home, and Burnley away. That is a very, very tough run-in of games. Now to Coventry's opening 6 games. So definitely we wanted to try and kick on and get in around the top half, maybe even push for top 6. They've got Sunderland away, which I think Sunderland is going to be a very tough away game for many teams. They've got the biggest stadium and I think they'll have the biggest capacity as well. So maybe a daunting one for Coventry to start off with. It's also Sunday kickoff as well, which I think is a bit of a peculiar time, 12 o'clock kickoff, and I think they're the most inconvenient kickoff time for away supporters, but I do think it won't be so bad. I think Sunderland away is always a really good cracker. And Coventry played a really good away game against Sunderland quite recently. Was it 5-4 that they won in the end? It was an incredible game. Rotherham at home next, which I think is not so bad. Millwall away, then Wigan at home, Huddersfield at home and Hull away. So they play the 3 recently promoted teams from League One in their opening 4 games. They've got Millwall sandwiched in between them, which I don't think is simple. Huddersfield at home is always a very tough game between the 2 teams. And then Hull away, I've got to say, I don't think that's too bad, to be honest. I think Huddersfield really being the only team that was in around the top 6. So I've got to say, I think that's actually quite a nice first 6 games for Coventry there. And I dare say probably Sunderland and Huddersfield being the toughest one. Then in terms of the run-in, the last 6 games, they've got Watford at home, QPR away, Blackburn away, with Reading at home, Birmingham at home, and they end with Middlesbrough away. Now that I think is a very tough last game of the season. If they are looking at this game, to potentially secure top 6, they do not want to face Middlesbrough last, I'll tell you that. They'll have to try and get a good result with Reading and Birmingham, and I think those 2 home games are going to be very, very crucial for Coventry at that time as well. Watford at home is always very tricky as well. So in general, I see Reading and Birmingham being the 2 crucial games in the last 6 there, because the rest are very, very tricky. We were just speaking about Huddersfield. We're talking about them now. Here's the opening 6 games. They've got Burnley at home, as I did say. The first game of the Championship season will be kicked off at the John Smith Stadium, with Birmingham away, Stoke at home, Norwich away, Coventry away, and West Brom at home. Now, they've got a couple of tricky games, Huddersfield, which I definitely would make it a bit interesting to see how tested they are. Huddersfield do tend to have actually a pretty tough start to the season normally. So I definitely think this will be quite refreshing for them. Burnley and then followed by Birmingham away, I think that will be okay for them. Stoke at home's not so bad. Norwich away will be tricky. Then Coventry away, always a tough game. And then West Brom at home to end the first 6 games off. Not easy for Huddersfield, but I think they'll relish the challenge. Their final 6 games, if they're chasing for top 6 as well, or even promotion, dare I say, this is what they're going to be faced up with. So Blackburn at home, Swansea away, Sunderland away, Sheffield United at home, Cardiff away, and Reading at home. I've got to say, I think Sunderland away and Sheffield United at home will be the 2 toughest games. I think the rest aren't so bad, to be honest. I think Blackburn will be okay. Swansea, don't know how they'll be their home form this year, but that could be okay. I think Sunderland and then Sheffield United will be the testing period for Huddersfield. But then to end it off with Cardiff away and Reading at home, I actually think that's very, very nice. I think in terms of the final games of the season, I think Huddersfield have done quite well there. So I think in general, I don't think it's a too bad run-in for Huddersfield Town, to be honest. Now we go to Hull City. It's going to be interesting to see Shota Aldervazi with his first full season with Hull City. They start off the season at home to Bristol City. Yeah, an alright game to start things off. With Preston away, which they had a really great result against Preston in detail in the first game of the season last year. Norwich at home, Burnley away, West Brom away, and Coventry at home. So I've got to say, they're 2 away games after Preston, Burnley and West Brom. Very cruel to have them back to back. And Norwich at home with that as well. Those 3 games in a row there is really, really tough for Hull City in my opinion. And I feel like with the other 3, Coventry is still not so simple as well. Bit of a tough opening 6 games, I think, for Hull City overall. Then with their final 6 games, Millwall at home, Blackburn away, Middlesbrough away, Watford at home, Swansea at home, and then Luton away. I think their last 6 is a little bit better, although I do think Middlesbrough away and followed by Watford at home is a little bit harsh on them. But other than that, I think they're not so bad. Millwall at home, I think they could get a result. Blackburn away, maybe could get a result. Swansea at home, maybe a result. And Luton away, who knows what Luton will be next year. I think in general, it's much better than their opening 6 games, I'll tell you that. Speaking of Luton, this is their opening 6 games. It's tough to see what Luton will be following that they've reached their highest position ever in the Championship. Are they going to kick on and improve? They start off their season against Birmingham, which I don't think, on paper shouldn't be bad. But they had an absolute nightmare dealing with Birmingham last time. So maybe it's a bit of a daunting game for Luton, or probably good for them to get it out of the way first. Burnley away, followed by that, with Preston at home, They tend to have a good record against Preston, actually, Luton, so I think that'll be okay. Bristol City away, Swansea away, and then Sheffield United at home. Ooh. I gotta say, I think Burnley away is going to be the toughest, I think, out of all of those games there. But in general, I don't think it looks too bad. It's just making sure that they deal with this monkey off the back that Birmingham is their bogey team. They've got to really try and approach that, because those were really some crucial goals and points that they gave away against both times they played against Birmingham. They've got to try and address that. In terms of their final 6 games, they got Blackpool at home, followed by Rotherham away, Reading away, Middlesbrough at home, Blackburn away, and Hull at home. I've got to say, Luton, with those 3 games followed by Blackpool, Rotherham and Reading, those 3 games in a row I think are very nice. Very, very nice games for Luton. Although, if Luton aren't in a relegation picture and those 3 are, it may be very, very tricky. And that's the thing. We cannot visibly see where those teams are going to be in the table. It's just impossible. But hypothetically, if those 3 teams are battling survival and Luton are like right up there, within a comfortable position, it's going to be a very, very tough game. All those 3 games will be tough. Then Middlesbrough at home, which is never easy, and then Blackburn and then Hull. In general, I don't think too bad on paper, but it's really down to their mentality and the position of all these teams. Middlesbrough, we were just talking about them. This is their opening fixtures. They've got West Brom at home, QPR away, Sheffield United at home, Stoke away, Reading away, and Swansea at home. Doesn't look too bad. Their game against West Brom will be live as well. I think it's a Saturday kickoff at 5:30. So that's a very interesting kickoff time for West Brom to have that game against Middlesbrough there. With QPR away, I think it'll be okay. Sheffield United at home, tricky. But I've got to say, I think their toughest games they've got at home. So I don't think Middlesbrough have done so badly there. Their away games, QPR and Stoke, not too bad. And Reading, I think, will be okay especially. Yeah, I think they've done quite well there. It's now their last 6 that's interesting. So we've got Bristol City away, Norwich at home, Hull at home, Luton away, Rotherham away, and then Coventry at home. I gotta say, I think apart from Norwich, that run-in is quite good. I gotta say, I think apart from Norwich, that run is quite good. Especially Middlesbrough chasing for promotion or even top 6. I think those games are alright, to be honest. So I think Middlesbrough have really, really done well with those fixtures here. They've now just really got to do the business on the field. Let's go to Millwall now. Their opening fixtures consist of Stoke first at home, Sheffield United away, Coventry at home, Swansea away, Norwich away, and Reading at home. Definitely the toughest game is Norwich away for sure. Sheffield United away is always very, very tricky as well. I've got to say their away games are not very good, but I've got to say I think their home games are pretty nice. So a real mixed bag there. 3 tricky games followed by 3 alright games. So I think a typical mixed bag style, which we do tend to see with a lot of these teams. With their last 6, they've got Hull away, Preston at home, Birmingham at home, Wigan away, Blackpool away, and Blackburn at home. That I think is actually quite good, I've got to say. In terms of teams that are right up there in the table, I think the highest finish from last year was Preston, really, and they finished in 14th. So I think that last 6 is actually really nice. I think probably the most generous final 6 games I've seen from any team so far. I don't really see anyone that I don't think Millwall will give a game. So I think that's a really good final 6 games of the season, and who knows, maybe that could be crucial if Millwall trying to get into the top 6. Norwich, so their opening games, they've got Cardiff away, we did speak about that, with Wigan at home, followed by that with Hull away, Huddersfield at home, Millwall at home, and Sunderland away. So Alex Neil was reuniting with Norwich City in his 6th game of the season. That is going to make things very, very interesting. There's some Norwich players being linked from his time working at Norwich to Sunderland as well, so we could see a couple of reunions there. Cardiff away I think will be okay. Wigan at home I think will be a very nice game for Norwich. Then Hull away, not too bad. Huddersfield at home could be quite tricky, but I feel like they've got the advantage being at home. Mill at home will be okay, and I think Sunderland away probably the trickiest game, to be honest. I really do think Sunderland could try and springboard this season. In terms of their final 6, they've got Rotherham at home, Middlesbrough away, QPR away, Swansea at home, West Brom away, and Blackpool at home. We just spoke about how important that game for Blackpool could be at the final game of the season. If they're fighting a relegation battle, that is the worst final game of the season that they could have had. Rotherham I think will be good. Middlesbrough away I think is the toughest game. And also they got West Brom. I definitely think Middlesbrough will be tougher than West Brom though, but those 2 away games are very, very mean. But their home games, I'm looking at Blackpool, Rotherham and Swansea being pretty good home games for Norwich. So overall, a bit similar to Millwall's first 6 games, to be honest. 3 easy, 3 not so easy. So I definitely think a mixed bag there. Preston North End's first 6 games consist of Wigan, Hull at home, Luton away, Rotherham at home, Watford at home and Cardiff away. So 2 of the newly promoted teams in Preston's first 4 games. And Wigan away, that's the second year in a row where Preston have faced the champions of League One. It didn't go so well last year when they lost 4-1 to newly promoted Hull at the time. So they've got to be hoping that they don't do that again against this Wigan side, which I think will be a very, very spirited side. Hull, I mean, they definitely don't want to repeat of last year when they faced Hull at Deepdale. Luton away, not a great record against them. Rotherham, I think, will be a good one. Watford at home, followed by that, and then Cardiff away. It's tough to say with Preston because I think 3 of those teams seem okay, but I think if I'm thinking of previous history, they've not got a great record against Cardiff. They've not got a great record against Luton. Hull is a bit of a mixed bag as well. Could be quite tricky, those games for Preston. You know, it feels like one of those opening games that don't look so bad, but don't be deceived by them. I definitely think they could pose a challenge. With Preston's final 6 games, they've got Reading at home, Millwall away, Swansea away, Blackburn at home, which is very interesting, Lancashire derby, third of last game of the season. Sheffield United away as their final away day. Now, that was one of their best away days of the season, so they could potentially save the best away day to last. And then Sunderland at home to end off the season. So Alex Neil will be reuniting with Preston in the final game week of the season. So that's going to make things very, very interesting for sure. I definitely think those final 6 games not so bad. Reading at home will be alright. I think Sunderland at home would be okay. I think really the only tricky ones I see is Millwall away and Sheffield United away. The rest I don't think they're so bad. Maybe Blackburn could be tough with it being a derby, but overall I don't actually think that's that bad for them there. QPR's first 6 games consist of Blackburn away, Middlesbrough at home, Sunderland away, Blackpool at home, Rotherham at home and Watford away. Mixed bag for me. Watford away tricky, Sunderland away tricky, and of course Middlesbrough at home quite tricky. But I think the other 3, maybe not so bad. I think they can compete against Blackburn. Blackpool, they should get a result, and Rotherham, they should get a result. So overall, a bit of a mixed bag for QPR there. In terms of their final 6 games though, they've got West Brom away, Coventry at home, Norwich at home, Burnley away, Stoke away, and Bristol City away. To have Norwich and Burnley back to back, never easy. 2 recently relegated teams to have there. West Brom away with that as well. That I think is a really, really tough final 6 games for QPR there. Stoke away as well could even be quite tricky as well. So, yeah, overall, I think their first 6 games were definitely much nicer than their final 6 games, that's for sure. Reading's first 6 games follows with Blackpool away, Cardiff at home, Rotherham away, Blackburn at home, Middlesbrough at home, and Millwall away. I think Middlesbrough at home is their toughest game, but I've got to say, their opening 3 games, Blackpool, Cardiff, Rotherham, they can get a result in those 3 games, Reading. And I feel like for me, with Reading's season so far, with the amount of players they've lost, they really need a head start, like, right now. So, what I will say with that, I definitely think it's going to be interesting and pivotal to see how many points they pick up in their opening 3 games there. I think the rest of the games are a little bit tricky, but overall, I don't think it's all that bad, to be honest. In terms of their final 6 games, though, Preston, Burnley, Luton, Coventry, Wigan at home, and Huddersfield away to end things off. Oh, that's not a nice game to end off your season. Wigan at home may be crucial. That game there against Wigan at home, if both teams are fighting for survival, that game could really make the difference, to be honest. Coventry will be tricky, Luton will be tricky, Burnley especially will be tricky, and then Preston, they tend to have a good record against Preston, so they might do okay with that. But yeah, that's very, very interesting. That game against Wigan, I think, will be the very crucial game. That's the game I'm staring at right now and could really help Reading, but they'll hope that they still have a fighting chance at that stage of the season. Now, Rotherham are the favourites to go back down at the moment, but with their opening 6 games, it's really not that bad, to be honest. When I'm looking at those teams, the highest ranked team from last year they've got to face is QPR, who finished in 11th. So that's the only top half team they've got to face, actually. So Swansea at home, Coventry away, Reading at home, Preston away, QPR away, and Birmingham at home. So in terms of how the teams are ranked, this is the first 6 games that I definitely think Rotherham need to start very, very quickly. They actually started, actually the last time in the Championship, a little bit well. But as soon as the tough running came, they really fell away. So maybe we could see a similar scenario there if they don't really take that opportunity. In terms of the final 6 games, they've got Norwich away, Luton at home, Burnley at home, Bristol City away, Middlesbrough at home, and then Wigan away to end off the season. The two recently promoted teams from League One going up against each other on the final day. That, for me, could be really, really big for this season, to be honest. Middlesbrough, tough for them. I think Norwich away especially is going to be their toughest game. Burnley at home, never easy there. So they're facing two for recently relegated teams for the Premier League in their final 6 games. Rotherham, once again, I definitely would think they need to have a really good head start going into this, because I don't think they'll pick up many points there. But, as I previously said with Wigan, that final game they have there might be the most crucial game that both these sides will have to play in this season, especially if Wigan don't have to get a result against Reading there. Sheffield United's opening 6 games look like this. They'll definitely be wanting to try and go for top 6 or maybe promotion. They start off with Watford away, which is not nice, and that is actually going to be a Monday night game at 8 p.m. So they are actually, Watford and Sheffield United, the only 2 teams that don't actually start the season in July, funnily enough. They've got Millwall at home as well, with Middlesbrough away. Wow. Sunderland at home, Blackburn at home, and then Luton away. Gotta say, those 2 away games, Watford and Middlesbrough, not easy. Luton away, not easy either. Luton finished in the top 6 last year, of course, with Sheffield United. I think their home games are nice, though. Millwall, I think, will be okay. Sunderland should be okay. And Blackburn, I think, will be okay as well. In terms of their final 6, though, ooh, my days. Burnley away, Cardiff at home, Bristol City at home, Huddersfield away, Preston at home, and then Birmingham away. You know, well, maybe not as bad as the opening 6 games, to be honest. I think Burnley and Huddersfield were the 2 teams I looked at, which made me think, oh, okay. But I think the other 4, I don't think so bad, to be honest. I definitely think their running at the end of this season is not as bad as they had last year. I mean, what they had last year was ridiculous with the quality they had to play in quick succession. They had QPR and Fulham as their final 2 games, for instance. It was a very tough running that they had. And I think this running's a little bit better for Sheffield United. Stoke City's opening fixtures look like this. They've got Millwall away, Blackpool at home, Huddersfield away, Middlesbrough at home, Sunderland at home, and Blackburn away. Bit of a mixed bag, I've got to say. The only recently promoted team from League One they've got to play is Sunderland at home, which I think will be okay. Middlesbrough, toughest game for me. Maybe Huddersfield away could even be right up there as well. And Millwall to start off the season. Gary Rowett, you know, returning to his former club there. So that'll make things very interesting at the start of the season. Their last 6 games with Birmingham away, West Brom at home, Wigan at home, Cardiff away, QPR at home, and then Watford away to end the season. That's a very tough game to end on. And I feel like Stoke have just traditionally just been a team that's just been there. Literally just right around the mid-table. So these 6 games may not even have any significance. If they were fighting for survival, Stoke, let's say, in a hypothetical situation, I think those games, yeah, West Brom and Watford would be quite tough, but I think the rest wouldn't be so bad. But if they were pushing for top 6, that last game against Watford could be very crucial in that moment there. Now, finally talking about Sunderland. So, their first game to start off their return to the Championship in over 5 years of absence is against Coventry City. Then they follow that up with Bristol City, with QPR, Sheffield United away, Stoke away, and then Norwich at home. I've got to say, apart from Sheffield United and Norwich, I don't think that's a too bad opening 6 games. And definitely Sunderland, if they really want to be riding on this good momentum, they need to start the season well. And I definitely think they've got the running to do that before they have to play against Norwich, where they'll probably lose to that. But who knows? You know, Sunderland can definitely pull off a couple of surprises. Their final 6 games is interesting. They've got Cardiff away, Birmingham at home, Huddersfield at home, West Brom away, Watford at home, and then Preston away. So as I said, Alex Neil reuniting with Preston is final game of the season. West Brom away, followed by Watford at home, very tough. And maybe even Huddersfield there. I think their final 6 is not so easy. Maybe Birmingham at home is alright, but the rest of it, really tricky actually. So I think another similar one to Preston's opening 6, you know, I feel like on paper looks okay, but you can't be deceived about what they can bring on their day. And being a newly promoted team, you know, it's difficult to predict where Sunderland are going to be. If they're fighting for survival, this will be a very tough run-in for them. But let's say they're mid-table, it wouldn't feel so bad. So now for Swansea, they've got Rotherham away to start things off the season. Blackburn at home, Blackpool away, Mill at home, Luton at home, and Middlesbrough away. Maybe Middlesbrough away is a bit tricky, but other than that, I actually think it's a pretty good opening 6 games, to be honest. Rotherham starting things off, Blackburn, who'll be finding their feet with Jean Dale Thomason, Blackpool, then Millwall, and then Luton. I actually think that's a pretty nice run-in for the start of the season for Swansea there. In terms of the running at the end of the season, though, interesting. They've got Wigan away, Huddersfield at home, Preston at home, Norwich away, Hull away, and West Brom at home to end the season. That's not an easy game to end on. And Norwich away within that. That's always going to be very, very tough for Swansea, isn't it? So, in general, a bit of a mixed bag. 3 tough games in Huddersfield, Norwich and West Brom. But I think the other games, Preston, Hull and Wigan, I think they can really compete with that. Nearly at the end, now we've got to talk about Watford, the final relegated team from the Premier League. Sheffield United at home, they start off, as I said, it will be live at Vicarage Road at 8 p.m. on the Monday night on the 1st of August, I believe. West Brom away, Burnley at home, Birmingham away. Oh my days, alright. Preston away, and then QPR at home. So those 3 games, Sheffield United, West Brom and Burnley to start off your season. Very tough. Rob Edwards is definitely going to be very, very tested in those opening 3 games there. But if he gets good results in that, he will definitely be, vibing with that, I've got to say. Their final 6 games consist of Coventry, Bristol City, Cardiff, Hull, Sunderland and then Stoke City. Wow, okay. What do I think about this one? I've got to say, out of all the recently relegated teams, I actually think that's the nicest last 6 games. Coventry away will be tricky, I think, but the rest, not so bad. Sunderland away may be quite tough too, but in general, I actually think Watford have done quite well there with their final 6 games. West Brom now. So we've nearly made it to the end. They've got Middlesbrough away to start things off in the season, and that will be a live game. As I did say, it will be a Saturday night game, 5:30 kickoff. Watford at home, that makes things very interesting there, with Blackburn away, Cardiff at home, Hull at home, and Huddersfield away. So, mixed bag. I think Middlesbrough, Watford, Huddersfield, the 3 trickiest ones, and then the other 3 I think are not so bad. So, a very mixed bag, as I'm repeating a lot of the time. With their final 6, they start off with QPR at home, Stoke away, Blackpool away, Sunderland at home, Norwich at home, and then Swansea away. That looks really good, actually, now that I look at it. I think their away games aren't so bad. I think their home games, are the toughest teams they face, but the fact they're home could be an advantage. So, in general, I think they've done quite well there. To be honest, I actually think they've done quite well with those last 6 games. So, West Brom will be having an advantage, especially if they want to be trying to chase for top 6 or promotion. Finally, Wigan Athletic, the final team promoted from League One. Their opening 6 games is very interesting. They've got Preston at home, with Norwich away. That's not nice for them to have Norwich this early on. Bristol City at home with Coventry away, Birmingham away, and Burnley at home. So they faced 2 of the recently relegated teams in the Premier League in their first 6 games. Obviously, it's going to be quite a challenge there, and Coventry away won't be easy either. So I've got to say, pretty challenging in general. And then in terms of their final 6 games, it's quite interesting. They've got Swansea at home, Blackpool away, Stoke away, Millwall at home, Reading away, and then they end off with Rotherham at home. I've got to say, that final 6 actually looks really good to me. I think Swansea at home, they could get something. Blackpool away, maybe a very crucial game there. Stoke away, probably the trickiest one they've got to face, actually. Then Millwall at home would be nice. Reading away, and then followed by Rotherham at home. They really got to take advantage of those games if Wigan are fighting for survival. So, I've got to say, I actually think there's a bit of an advantage for Wigan there, especially if they need to have a really good result in their running to survive the championship season. All of this talk is just making me really excited for this season. Before I end, I'm actually going to show you a couple of crucial game weeks just to talk through the real complications of this season. So, even with those opening 6 games, we've already had 1 midweek game squeezed in within that. In fact, in game 7, that's when we get the second of midweek games. So, this season is going to go at a really, really fast pace. Now, on the 12th of November, that's a very crucial week because that is the last week before we have a month break from the World Cup. That is when football, in terms of domestically, will be stopping entirely so we can entirely focus for the World Cup in Qatar this year. So the games, we've got Birmingham versus Sunderland, Bristol City versus Watford, Burnley versus Blackburn, Cardiff versus Sheffield United, Coventry versus QPR. We've also got Huddersfield versus Swansea, Hull versus Reading, Luton versus Rotherham, Norwich versus Middlesbrough, Preston versus Millwall. We've got West Brom versus Stoke and Wigan versus Blackpool. Those are the final games that we're going to be seeing played before we are going to have this huge break because of Qatar. I think Wigan Blackpool is quite an interesting one to end. And then we have a month break and we resume on the 10th of December because if I'm right in saying, at the quarterfinal stage of the World Cup, that is when the season in the EFL is going to resume. And we immediately resume with a Lancashire derby between Blackburn and Preston, Blackpool versus Birmingham, Middlesbrough versus Luton, Mill versus Wigan, QPR versus Burnley, Reading versus Coventry, Rotherham versus Bristol City, Sheffield United versus Huddersfield, Stoke versus Cardiff, Sunderland versus West Brom, Swansea versus Norwich, and Watford versus Hull. And then I'm just going to skip a week before we actually get to Boxing Day, because a lot of people want to know what are the games for Boxing Day. It's on a Monday this year. So we have got Bristol City versus West Brom, Burnley Birmingham, Cardiff QPR, Hull Blackpool, Luton Norwich, Middlesbrough Wigan, Preston Huddersfield. That's a good Boxing Day game. Reading Swansea, Rotherham Stoke, Sheffield United Coventry. Now that's a very good Boxing Day one. Sunderland Blackburn should be good as well, and then Watford versus Millwall as well. That's a really good bunch of Boxing Day games. And I'm also going to skip through the midweek games on the 29th of December, because I'm going to lastly look at the New Year's games, because that's what a lot of people like to look out for as well. So those games are Birmingham versus Middlesbrough, Blackburn versus Cardiff, Blackpool versus Sunderland. Now that should be a cracking game. Coventry versus Bristol City, Huddersfield versus Luton, Millwall versus Rotherham, Norwich Watford, top of the table clash potentially on this day. They will definitely be the two favourites of going up, so I think that could be a really good choice. QPR Sheffield United, also a really good match as well. Stoke Preston, Swansea Burnley, West Brom Reading, and Wigan versus Hull City. Now those are some interesting matches. So guys, that is my review of the Championship 2022-23 fixtures done. We've looked at a lot of games coming up in some very crucial days as well. I think I've gone through all my descriptions there. How excited are you for this season? If you're excited for this new season, please give the video a like. It does tremendously help the channel. Please hit the subscribe button as well. And please let me know, what do you think of your club's opening fixtures? What do you think of the run-in? What do you think of the whole situation of the month break we have due to the World Cup? I'd love to hear all your thoughts in the comments down below. But other than that, that's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys are legendary if you saw any of this video. As always, I'll see you guys soon. Take care, everyone.